when you're a mum by yourself, you're not always able to shield everything from your kids. The first person that my mum was with, again, just very horrible person in my opinion. My mum was a journalist, and I think he was kind of using my mum to like get connections, and they had an argument one time. He stole her passport, he gave her a stolen car. So I was with her, she got pulled over, found out that the car was stolen. But this second guy had now like moved in, you know, so it was almost like a stepfather type of figure. So my mum and dad were not seeing eye to eye. She should come to Ghana and live with me. I can take care of her. My school were not supportive of me at all.
What was your relationship with your mother like during this time?
And I remember going to her room and the bed is just empty. So my mum and my grandma's relationship was very sort of up and down. I just didn't have the money to feed myself. I then started to have panic attacks.
What made you keep up with education?
I was absolutely smoking, I was drinking a lot. There was a time where I like passed out in the room. When I hear of people passing, particularly when they're young, I get scared. I'm like, oh my goodness, someone ready to attack you next door. And I think sometimes that's what haunts me. And
how traumatic it is when you lose both your parents and you're only 14.
sometimes I see my mum's friends and they walk past me.
Do you trust people?
People that I said, like, I thought they would be there for me, and they showed me that they just completely dismissed me. I truly believed when I was a kid that I was just hideous.
Welcome to Unbroken, my story with Tisha. This is where we talk about failures, challenges, and the lessons that shape us. We explore resilience, inner strength, and growth. Today's guest lost both parents at a very young age, but they refused to lose hope. This is a story of resilience, purpose, and choosing to move forward without letting go of their dreams. Boohema, welcome and thank you so much for being on this platform today.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for having me.
So, before we start, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes. So I'll actually say my name the proper way, which is Boohema, and I'm 31. I live in Birmingham, and I'm just a normal civilian like everybody else.
Just an average human being.
Just an average human being.
You doing average daily tasks.
Doing average things, nothing of the ordinary, you know. Not yet.
Not yet. But maybe we'll explore some other things in today's episode. So I know that you have had a difficult childhood in the sense that you lost both your parents quite early on in life. And that is the topic of our discussion today, and grief and how you dealt with it and what that's made you as a human being, as a person today. Mm-hmm. Would you like to share your story?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess let me kind of rewind to the beginning.
Of course.
I believe my parents met around the late 80s. They're both from Ghana, so Ghanaian descent. My mum's upbringing was a little bit different in that, well, of course, for those who know, Ghana was colonized by Britain. So the time that she was growing up, Ghana had just sort of got independence. Being in Ghana, my grandfather, so my mum's dad, had met a guy from Britain, and they became best friends. And he sort of said, do you want to go to Britain? And who would say no? So he came over with my maternal grandmother, and they came in the 60s. They had my mum in Ghana, but they brought her when she was about 2 years old. So she was here from very young. So she was brought up here. And the reason I'm mentioning that is because a lot of Ghanaian people, or I say maybe West Africans, started migrating to Britain in like the 90s, the early 2000s. So I'm just sort of highlighting that in terms of like my upbringing was quite different. Very British. I mean, hybrid still, but, you know, more British than maybe other people, I would say. So, yeah, so my mum did a lot of, can't even speak. My mum did a lot of, I did a lot of her schooling here. And, you know, kind of like split her time between like here and Ghana. And then my mum has 3 brothers. So she's got an older brother, and her older brother came over to the UK as well. And they were close in age, probably about 2 years. So they went out one night to a club. They used to party a lot. And that's how my mum met my dad. However, my dad was actually the same age as my mum's brother, and they were in school together in Ghana. So it was a weird situation. It was basically, you know, my uncle's kind of friend dating my mum.
Yeah.
But then the good thing was that because my uncle knew him, it was like, oh, he's a good guy,
Yeah.
you know. So yeah, so they got together.
How old were they when they were first together?
Probably like maybe even, so my mum might have been 16, he might have been 18.
Oh, okay.
So
Teenage love.
yeah. So
Beautiful.
quite young. And then they got married, I want to say, when my mum was like 24 and he was 28, I believe. No, so 26. They're 2 years apart. Yeah. So they got married, I think, like I said, 1990, and then had me in 94. And I've got very good memory, actually. So I was born in a place called Harlesden. It's called Central Middlesex Hospital, that's it. And I lived in some tower blocks in a place called Brentford. Lived there for about 3 years. And then at the age of 3 in 1997, we moved to a place called Chiswick. So I spent literally everything in Chiswick, you know, primary school, secondary school, college, you know, I did life there. Now, in terms of the dynamic, so I want to say my dad, from like maybe 98, started going back to Ghana more often. Sort of said that he wanted to start up a business over there, and he felt like things weren't really going right for him in the UK. And I think that's something that a lot of people deal with, you know, when they come from an ethnic background, trying to find a job. He didn't have the qualifications that you need as well. My mum was a lawyer, so she, you know, had her qualifications. She was doing pretty well for herself, whereas he, you know, had some struggles. So he went back. But I think, you know, and of course, that was a time where people didn't have mobile phones in the same way we have today.
Yeah.
The internet wasn't there. They were writing each other cards and, you know, letters and everything.
So he had moved back to Ghana?
Yeah, he was going for like months at a time. Yeah.
Okay.
So, you know, he'd go for 3 months, come back, and communication just started to slow down quite a bit. And I think my mum was hearing things that maybe he's with other people, or, you know, but obviously hadn't been able to prove anything. And the reason why I remember all of this is because, you know, when you're a mum by yourself, you're not always able to shield everything from your kids. Sometimes you might have a breakdown and you think, oh, the child is really young, they don't see. But depending on the child, some kids forget, but for some reason, I remember a lot. I'd say from the age of 3, I remember quite a lot of my childhood. So yeah, I remember there was days when obviously she was really distraught, struggled. And then, yeah, so probably 2001 or so, she then filed for divorce. And I'd seen my dad a few times, but obviously hadn't really got to know him as much. And then I'd say probably from like 2002, it was like divorce is final. He then moved on and got a new partner. And that was, you know, that affected me because I just thought, well, who is this lady? My mum is right here. Like, you know, can't you see? Amazing woman, beautiful woman. And I just couldn't understand it. And this new lady also wasn't very kind to me. No one was happy about it. So it just felt like, well, what are you doing? You know, it's different if everyone sort of come to terms with it. But it just felt like he was just sort of being a bit, you know, self-centered in that sense.
Was he here in the UK or was he...
No, he was in Ghana with the lady. And then came the big debacle, I would say. So my mum, maybe... Of course, my timelines are not 100%, but maybe like 2002, 3, also started like dating herself, as she should. But again, that affected me because now it's just me and her, right? So it's just me and her in the house. We're the best of friends. And now somebody else comes into the picture and I'm like, well, who is this person? You know?
How old were you this time?
Maybe 7 or 8. Yeah.
So old enough to obviously
know
absolutely
what's
happening,
you know, and I remember there hadn't been a man in the house for so long, so I'm like, what is this dynamic? You know, didn't understand it. And the first person that my mum was with, again, just very horrible person in my opinion, used her quite a lot. And of course, I didn't understand everything at the time. But when I look back, I'm like, oh, God, you know, this person was horrible. My mum was a journalist. And because of that, she was very well connected. So I feel like that man, he'd started a business at the time, and I think he was kind of using my mum to like get connections, and you know, that's what it seemed like anyways. But yeah, he did a lot of horrible stuff. I was able to witness a lot of these things. For an example, they had an argument one time. He stole her passport and threw it in a bin in a park. And me and her had to go around trying to search for it, and we found it in a bin somewhere. Another example, he gave her a stolen car. So I was with her, she got pulled over, found out that the car was stolen. You know, things like this, like, you wouldn't do that to someone you love, right? So clearly the man just didn't have good intentions. And I think my mum had amazing intentions. I think she, of course, wanted to be loved again and all of that. But I don't know if she saw it and ignored it, or maybe didn't see it. I'm not sure. Of course, I was too young to understand. But like I said, I just knew that this wasn't right. Then she moved on from that person, and she found someone else. And this guy, so this was where I'd say things got taken to the next level. So the first guy was kind of like not living there, but just would come and visit. But this second guy had now like moved in, you know, so it was almost like a stepfather type of figure. And I really, really struggled with that, because my dad was still making effort to see me. So he wasn't an absent father. He was still very much in my life, and, you know, and like I said, going back to the whole thing that happened, so my mum and dad were not seeing eye to eye, and my dad was like, she should come to Ghana and live with me. I can take care of her. I was in year 4. So my mum was like, okay, sure, like, we'll give it a try. I actually, a lot of people don't know, but I schooled in Ghana for a year, and ooh, that was an experience. Being a British child with a very strong, and I'd say my accent when I was younger was quite different to what it is now. I'd say it's probably become more like Ghanified. I know that's not a word, but yeah. But yeah, and I say that because I did go to a school with like predominantly like white school, so my, you know, like I said, accent was very much influenced. So yeah, going to a Ghanaian school where you've got all these Ghanaian kids that have never been to school with somebody from the UK before. So yeah, I got bullied. They bullied me because I was different. They bullied me because I didn't know the local language as well. And I just didn't fit in. So that was really tough to navigate. My mum then came to Ghana and I guess assumed that I was staying with my dad, but then saw that I was staying with my grandmother, so my dad's mum. And she wasn't happy about that, because she was like, well, you know, you promised me that you're going to take care of her, so why is she always with your mum? It's fine for me to go to my grandmother's sometimes, but it felt like it was like, oh, let's dump her here and I'll come and see her, you know, as and when.
Can I ask 2 questions? Mm-hmm. The first question is, earlier on you said that your mum was a lawyer, and then you said she was a journalist. So did she change her career or something?
Yeah. So law is what she did at university.
Right.
Because she practiced for a little bit and then she changed to journalism.
Okay.
Yeah.
And my second question is, why did your dad take you to Ghana, saying that he will be looking after you, but then kind of left you with his mother to do?
I have no idea. I don't know.
You never questioned that?
No.
You never thought that that's weird, I need to be why am I not staying with my dad?
No, I get, because so my grandma was living with my auntie and my cousins were there. So it was like, hey, I'm having a great time, you know. I don't have siblings as well, should I mention. So I was having so I wasn't, you know, that wasn't an issue for me. But and also my grandma's house was here and my dad's house was like 2 houses away. Yeah, she wasn't happy with it, and she just kind of felt like he didn't live up to the promise that he'd made of, you know. And also I want to mention that the reason why he wanted me to come to Ghana was because he was emphasizing that the school system was better over there and I'd have more discipline and all the rest of it kind of thing, and also to be more in touch with my roots. So that's why she also didn't feel like it was a bad idea. Very quickly it was, you know, go to Ghana, have to learn a new system, all of a sudden come back and have to adjust to the system again. Funny enough, the primary school I went to, is the same school that my mum went to. So went there, that was in Brentford. So Brentford and Chiswick are not far, probably like 10 minutes away. So yeah, I did my primary school in there. You finished primary school at 11? So I finished at 11. And then, yeah, like I said, so my mum was with this new guy. He was like, you know, my stepfather. We got on well, but like I said, it was just him living with us that was quite a bit of a shock, you know. Even just things like I'm a girl, right? So maybe you want to walk around in your knickers, or maybe you just you're with your mum, so you do whatever, isn't it? So now there's a man in the house. It's like you can't be as free,
and a man who's not your father, or
right?
your mother,
Exactly,
so,
exactly. So it was just very strange to navigate, and I think my mum was also, of course, loved me like more than anything, but was also frustrated because she felt like she had the right to move on and be happy, and I was sort of causing all of these issues. And she would sort of ask me like, why don't you want me to be happy, or why don't, and I'm like, it's not even about you, it's about me. And she's like, that's the thing, it's not about you, it's about me. So yeah, we had a bit of a clash there, and basically like, who is this about? I felt like she should have prioritized me and stayed single for the rest of her life. And she was like, no, I'm done with your dad. And 2006, January 2nd, which is why this podcast is so interesting, because yesterday was January 2nd. It makes it 20 years since my dad has passed, because he passed in 2006, January 2nd. So I remember my mum and I had gone to visit one of her friends. We was on, not motorway, but dual carriageway, happily dancing, singing, whatever. And then she gets a call from my dad's sister. And obviously she's like screaming on the phone. And my mum is like, what's wrong? And I'm even scared because I'm like, what if she loses control of the car? Because, And she pulls over, and she's just like, what's going on? She's like, my dad's name was Kofi. Which means that he's born on Friday. In Ghana, we have day names. So, like Kofi's dead. So my mum is like, what? And then she just starts crying, and it's just very, we're on the motorway, and I'm like, what's going on? Very emotional. And I also couldn't understand it, because according to what I knew, I thought my mum absolutely despised my dad, Not that she would badmouth him, but when he would come around, she'd kind of give him the energy of like, like just focus, like he would try to talk to her, and it's like, just focus on your child, you've come for that, so just don't talk to me, just you talk to your child. So I really thought she didn't have like love for him, or the love had fizzled out. And it was almost like an animalistic cry, when you like scream. And that's when, maybe like a few days afterwards, my mum sat me down and was like, your dad was like the love of my life, like that's the first person I was with, like because of him, I have you. And I was like, oh, okay, you really love, all that, I guess, fronts that you was putting on was because you was hurt, not because you didn't like him, So yeah, that was an interesting revelation for me. That funeral, I unfortunately didn't get to go, because my dad's partner at the time, the one that I mentioned previously, was like, I don't want myself and my mum to be there. So that was like really hurtful, because I was like, well, who are you? But I'm 11, so what say do I have? I couldn't say anything. And it was just wrong, As I mentioned, my dad only has one child.
Was the funeral here in the UK?
It was in Ghana, yeah.
It was in Ghana.
So there was just no way of us attending. And that's something that really upsets me till this day. I'm like, I should have been able to go, But yeah.
You didn't get the opportunity to say a final
to say goodbye, exactly.
Yeah.
And like I keep emphasizing, I'm the only one that carries his name. So it just felt like I'm direct blood. I should be there,
Yeah.
When you're a child, you really don't have any say, I mean, I don't have the money to jump on the plane and go. So yeah, I just had to take it as it was. I think I wasn't ready for what came next. Because I didn't live with my dad, I thought, oh, it might not affect me too much. But things went from 0 to 100. So my behaviour in school started to deteriorate. I was being rude to teachers. I was snapping. I was, just acting out, like anything that someone would do to me. It wasn't a conversation. It was sort of like an argument.
Were you angry?
Yeah. Like everything felt like an attack, I couldn't express myself. I didn't know who to talk to. I didn't know how to talk to anyone. And I remember the school put me on like a bad behaviour report, and my mum saw it and was just like, what is this? Like, you're not a bad child. Let me go down to the school and investigate. And they said, oh yeah, for the past 2 months, her behaviour has just been wild. We don't know what's happening. And she said, yeah, because her father's passed away. And the school's response was, well, a lot of girls have, well, I went to a girls' school. A lot of girls have had their fathers or parents pass away and they don't behave like that. So it is what it is. Like, she's going to have to stay on the report. And my mum was like, yeah, but that might have happened to them years ago. So they've had time. Like, this is fresh. Zero understanding. So my school were not supportive of me at all. If in fact, I think they added to the trauma and the grief.
What was your relationship with your mother like during this time?
I don't remember too much, but I don't think we really, apart from like when it happened first, I don't think we really talked about it again. So I think it was just sort of normal, like teenage normal. But I think, like I said, my behaviour was showing maybe that I was hurting a lot inside, but I wasn't vocalising it. She obviously had to, whatever she was feeling, had to put it to the side. I've got a child to provide for, you know, I still have to go to work, I still have to do this and whatever. So maybe she didn't have the time to also like investigate how I was feeling. I mean, she was, like I said, she stood up for me in front of the school, but I don't remember us having like more conversations about how I was feeling. My mum and the guy that she was with, he wanted to be a politician in Ghana. And obviously, because my mum is a journalist, she wanted to like capture the campaign and everything. And she went to Ghana with him and they were like campaigning up and down. By the time, I'm 14 at this time. And so my grandmother, my mum's mum, came. So remember I told you she came to England in the 60s. She worked in Britain for a long time and she went back in, I think, 2001 because she completed her house in Ghana. So between 2001 and like 2009, she hadn't been in the UK. So she came back to look after me whilst my mum was like with the guy campaigning. She also kind of got into politics herself. I think she got offered like a position with like the British High Commission as well. So there was all these exciting things that were going to happen. Apparently we was going to move house and it was all looking really positive. So it went from that to hearing that my mum had like tripped and fell and like hurt herself while she was out there. My grandma kept calling her and she wasn't picking up the phone. So obviously that's concerning because it's like, well, what's happening? And then my uncle, remember I told you my mum has an older brother? He like lived in the UK for a while but went back to Ghana. So my grandma was like, go and check on your sister because I'm not hearing from her. And apparently she was in a house just like bedbound and her hip was broken and she just looked awful, like in a really bad state. And so my uncle was like, you know, what is going on? Like, what's up? And she was just like, oh, I had a really bad fall. And apparently it happened a while ago and she hadn't like told anybody. So he was like, well, we need to get this checked out, you know, because it doesn't look good. And so they got it checked out and they actually said, look, things are not great with like your condition. So we need to fly you back to the UK. My grandma actually went to Ghana to bring her back. Sure. Yeah. So I don't even know who was looking after me during that time. Somebody, clearly. So yeah, brought her back. During that time I was in year 10, so just about to start like GCSEs and you know, very, very intense period of a child's life. And oh god, it was hell because I was going to school, learning, doing like mock exams and all of that, and then having to go to the hospital to see my mum afterwards. And I was going about 3 times a week. At the same time I also had a friend who was my age, but he was like starting to lose his eyesight, so I was going to hospital to see him. And I had another friend who'd also been like attacked, and I was going to 3 different hospitals and then going home. So that time was just, yeah, it felt like my whole world was burning, you know. So yeah, so I would go to the hospital often. And I think my mum had an operation on her hip, obviously, and they said it was getting better. But then they also found out that she had fibroids, and then they also found out that she had cancer, breast cancer. So it just felt like, you know, it's gone from zero. First it's your hip, but then now it's like this and that and that and that. So at this point, as I'm going, it just seems like she's getting weaker and weaker, you know. So let me go to the day. So I remember it was one of my school friends' baptisms and she'd invited a load of us to go to this baptism. And when I woke up that day. I have a lot of uncles, but they're quite young. They're like maybe 10 years apart from me. So if I was 14, they were like 24, 25 at the time. So I remember waking up and I had like maybe 5 of my uncles surrounding my bed, and I was like, this is weird, like what's going on here? And they were like, we need to get you to the hospital now, your mum is like requesting to see you. So I'm like, oh, but I just went yesterday. They're like, well, she says she wants to see you today. So I'm like, okay. So I'm like fussing, getting ready. My friend that's having her baptism, so is also calling me like, where are you? And I'm like, I was gonna come, but that my mum is saying that she needs to see me. So they were, I don't know, the friend was, well, we're 14, so she didn't understand, but she was quite like, oh, so you can't, you said you was coming and whatever. Anyways, I got to the hospital. Oh my goodness, the amount of people that were there. And again, my mum being a journalist, there was even camera crew. Obviously not British camera crew, but like Ghanaian media, like they were there. And I'm like, what is happening right now? So yeah, as soon as I arrived, I had people escorting me to like go and see her. I remember this like it was yesterday. So she was like in the bed. I remember I'd seen her the day before, right? And it's like even in 24 hours, she looks so different.
Deteriorated.
Yeah.
Much further.
So she had like a helmet on her head, when you have a seizure.
Yeah.
And I'm like, whoa, okay, what is this? And the reason I knew that is because I've got a cousin that used to have seizures, and he used to like wear a helmet. So I was aware of what that was. And she couldn't talk.
She was conscious though?
She was conscious, but just couldn't get her words out. My grandma was obviously at the bedside, crying and just so erratic. And I held my mum's hand and I was like, oh mum, it's me. My mum used to call me Bo, so I'm like, mum, it's Bo. And she's like looking at me like like it's like she wants to say something but she just can't. And something in my heart just told me, I think this is it. Like I don't think you're gonna make it, because I just never seen her that weak. So I left the hospital, went back home. My auntie was there with my 2 younger cousins. They were quite young. And then I can't remember the timings, but let's say I saw her in the morning, maybe like 1 p.m. My auntie gets the call, she's passed away. So my auntie tells me, I ran upstairs. I remember diving on my bed and just, the tears just flowing. And I was just like, this can't be true, And those friends that I mentioned, the baptism friends, I don't know who told them, but I feel like within 30 minutes they were at my house with their parents and stuff as well. So my house now became this whole and I just wanted that time to grieve, and I couldn't breathe because it just felt like everybody was just constant, And I guess because my mum, she wasn't just a journalist, but she was also popular in my school because she used to do so in Ghana we do African drumming and dancing, so she would come to the school, so people knew her, is what I'm trying to say. So the news just spread like wildfire. It felt like I had no control over anything. So then my grandma obviously came back from the hospital probably 5 p.m, 6 p.m, and was just in bits, screaming. She was like, the orphan child, obviously now I've lost both parents, right, so technically I am an orphan. The orphan child, what are we gonna do with the orphan child? And I'm just like, and everybody was calling me the orphan child. It was just a lot, and she was also screaming in a different language as well, so it was also very chaotic. And after that, gosh, I think for the next maybe 2-3 months, it was just people coming to the house almost every day, obviously checking on us, but it just felt like we couldn't breathe. Well, I felt like that anyways, maybe for my grandma it was comforting, but for me it was just like, just give me 5 minutes.
I mean, we all grieve in different ways, don't we?
Yeah.
I think I need my space as well.
Yeah. Because it just felt, there was just no time between it. It just felt like every day people are coming. Yeah, so obviously we had to tell the school, and they were sort of like, remember they weren't understanding when I was 11. They were super understanding with this one, because I think they realised whoa, okay, this is massive, So they gave me time off. They sort of said, if you need extra time in your exams or whatever it was. My friends, I became the talk of the school, but in a positive way. It gave me some status or something. I want to be her friend.
It just shows that there was support for you. It
was cool but weird at the same time. I mean, at school I felt like the queen, and at home I felt so lonely. my mum had a Mac computer, you know, the really big ones, the old ones, and I would sit there and just record myself just talking about my emotions because I had no one to talk to. And I remember just saying things like, you know, why has this happened to me and what's going on and I don't understand. And, you know, it's annoying that I can't find those videos now, but I remember very vividly because I just felt like I'm in a position that nobody understands. None of my friends had ever experienced that. I didn't know how to explain it to them. And even if they had empathy, it's just one of those things that unless you've been through it, you just won't understand, you know?
That pain hits differently.
It does, yeah. And it started to hurt because it was those little things as a child. Remember, as a child, you're not working, you don't have your own money, right? So little things like I'd go ask my mum, oh, mum, can I have £10? And I remember going to her room and the bed is just empty, you know? Mum, can I use your phone? And I was in that habit of doing those things for a while because that's what I would do. So I'd go to then the room was empty and I just start, because I'm like, why are you not here? I don't get it, you know? And you know, with death, it can either bring out the best in people, the worst in people. So I feel like in my family, there was just a lot of chaos about my mum's like assets and things that she'd left behind. And I obviously had no say. And I also didn't know the extent of the things that she had as well. People, I'd guess, you know, in the kindest way possible, started to show their character. My grandma, I feel like, didn't have the best autonomy of things because of how emotional she was. I know that losing a parent is horrific, right? But I've always said, like, I've never given birth to a child, but I can only imagine you having to bury your child before you go. Horrible. So I always kind of also suppressed how I felt because I'm like, this is a mother that's lost her child, you know?
You were 14.
Yeah.
But you were able to empathize to that level?
Absolutely, yeah. Because my mum was my grandma's only daughter as well. So, you know, there's that too. And from what I hear, it's a little bit of a different relationship, you know. I know parents love their kids, but I know, like, when you have a daughter, it can be very... And you rely on that daughter for a lot and everything. So, yeah, I understood, definitely. I was like, this is a lot for her to go through. Even, like, where we were staying in Chiswick, it was, like, a rented house. Housing association at the time were trying to say that I couldn't live there anymore because I'm not 18 and my grandma was a pensioner. So they were like, well, who's going to pay the rent, you know? They wanted to move me far away. My grandma was like, she's doing her GCSE. We had to get a lawyer involved. You know, there was just so many things going on. Very, very chaotic. But anyways, I got through it, managed to finish my education. Then I went on to college. I'd say college was really one of the hardest times of my life because remember I told you I'd gone from being the queen bee at school. Oh, and I also want to mention very quickly, you know, when you go through grief, you're supposed to have counselling, right? And in my culture, counselling is like, nobody has a clue what counselling is. Nobody, you know, we don't do those things. So
is it looked down upon as well?
I don't even think they know what it is.
Okay.
It's not even, they're just not even aware of what it is. Yeah, because, you know, especially back in the days, people would talk to, like, the elders in their family. So you wouldn't go to an external person. It would be, like, within the family if you had an issue to talk about, which makes sense, you know. So things like external counselling, not really that familiar. We see it as, like, a Western thing, you know. I actually did have a counsellor and it was a black lady, which was good. And I say that because she was able to understand cultural nuances, you know. So in year 11, I feel like that helped me a lot. And I think that's why it helped me to get through my GCSEs because I was able to speak with her and all of that. But yeah, like I said, when I went to college, didn't know anybody. And I was expecting... It's like I walked in and I expected the same sort of love and affection that I'd had in secondary school. And I got none of that, you know. And I really wore what I'd been through on my shoulders. So when I would meet people, I'd be like, hi, I'm so-and-so. And like, I lost my mum last year. And people would kind of be like, okay, that's weird. Like, why are you telling me that? It's because, like I said, I was so used to kind of like everybody knowing my situation and being able to like cater to me. And now I'm in this place where like nobody gives a damn, you know? I remember a boy actually saying to me, okay, well, I lost my sister last year as well. So... But I'm glad he said that to me because it made me realise, oh, okay. Because like I said, in my immediate circle in school, nobody had lost anyone, right? So for once it was like, oh, people my age do experience loss, because I thought it was something that used to happen when you're older. I know it sounds silly, but I used to think, oh, it's only once you're an adult that you like lose people. I didn't realize that like young people can also lose people. So when he said that, I was like, wow. And we actually bonded. Like, he told me about how he felt when his sister passed. I told him about my mum. Yeah, so that was, college was hard to navigate because of that, because I just felt so lost. Like, it was like, there really isn't no one to talk to here, you know? And I'd kind of started losing touch with my secondary school friends as well. So by the time I went to university, I'd obviously had to find a new norm. My grandma started getting sick. College was hard to navigate because of that, because I just felt so lost. Like, it was like, there really isn't no one to talk to here. Just old age, and, you know, think that what comes with old age, you know, health issues and stuff. And by the time I was 21, I sort of knew that I don't know how long she's gonna live, so I need to kind of start thinking of a plan. And I went to Coventry for university, so I was familiar with Birmingham. I'd come here to party, as you do. That's all I knew it as. And I thought, okay, it's a city, you know, I've lived in London all this time, it shouldn't be too different. I didn't know what I was going to do in Birmingham. I just thought, you know. So I got my first job. I worked in sales and marketing after I left university. That job, it was good to me until it wasn't good to me. Like with every job, there was redundancies and everything. So when they made me redundant, I got quite a bit of money, and I thought, I think now's the time. So 23, I moved to Birmingham, didn't know a single person, didn't know what to expect. So I just was like, yep, I'm gonna go. So I found like a studio flat, again not realizing how expensive those are. I was like, oh, I've got the money to pay for it, I'll just pay for it. And then I realized, okay, I'm gonna have to, like, rent is not just once, you have to keep on paying the rent. Nobody had explained those things to me, so I'm like, oh, okay. I found myself a job, again, like sales and marketing type of job, just to support me, but the money wasn't great, so I was still struggling. And then I thought, do you know what, let me just go and do a master's, because by that time they changed the rules. So I know previously when you did a master's degree you had to fund it yourself, but then the government started giving people money to do it. So I thought, okay, great, just like student finance for my undergrad, if I go do the master's I can get paid to learn. Let me just go and do it. So I actually did media production, specializing in radio.
Wow.
So my podcast is where that all came about. So I went to Birmingham City University to do that. It was a great time. I learnt a lot, you know, in terms of the course. I met some good people, but it was also one of the worst times at the same time. This was, remember, I've lived with my grandma all this time, and although I had to be independent in some ways when I was there, living by yourself completely is a whole different ballgame, right? Cooking for yourself, cleaning for yourself, paying the bills, as I've mentioned. And I want to also mention that I wasn't taught how to cook. Not because, my grandma was a chef. I guess that doesn't help. So she enjoyed cooking. So, you know, there was that. But then also, I think there was this thing of, actually, one of my friends made me realize it recently. She was saying that my grandma probably obviously looked at me and felt sorry for me and wanted to sort of cater to me, because it's like she doesn't have anybody.
And do whatever she could.
That
was in her capacity.
Right, to make me feel loved. Right, exactly. So whereas sometimes I look back and think, oh, why wasn't I taught this? But it's like, actually, yeah, she was just doing what she could to try and, you know, and there's no right or wrong way to do things. So why it was one of the worst times was because like I said, I came with this redundancy money. I kind of blew all of it, mostly on the studio apartment, to be fair. And then I became really broke because I wasn't working. So, you know, so I'm doing the master's degree. There's no income coming in. And when I say broke, I'm talking really broke, as in I had probably like £2 in my account or something for a long period of time. And you're probably thinking, how the hell does she survive?
Yeah.
I had a friend that went to the university as well, and I would obviously say to him, like, I have no money, and he would like buy me groceries and stuff. But the times when I felt ashamed to ask him, I was living off fruit, apples, you know, I was eating apples. I just didn't have the money to feed myself. And it was then a domino effect. So I couldn't feed myself. I then started to have panic attacks because I just had so much anxiety that I was like getting into debt, and I didn't know how to manage it. And as we know, debt can cause a lot of mental health issues, you know. This was the first time that I'd accumulated so much debt in my life. So yeah, so I was just losing weight rapidly. And I remember when people see me, but, oh, you look so amazing. And I'm thinking, I'm here fighting for my life. You don't even know. I'm here, you know, struggling. And I had no one to talk to because I'm like, I can't ask family.
Because, why not?
Well,
you had your uncles here.
Yeah, so
and you had your grandma.
Yeah, but she's a pensioner, so it's like, am I gonna really take her £200 pension money? You know, I can't do that. I mean, it was more than 200, but you know what I mean. Like, yes, it wasn't a salary. And although she would give her last loaf of bread for me, but I just couldn't, you know, because I'm like, she still has to maintain the house in London. So
also, you mentioned that when your mum had passed away, it was a bit chaotic around her
assets
and everything, so that might have affected some of the relationship as well with the family. Is that right?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I mean, I have one uncle who would definitely give me money from time to time, but he also had and I'm very self-aware. Like, if people have families of their own, at the end of the day, they've got to come first, you know. So
can I ask you a question? What made you keep up with education? Because it's probably one of the easiest things to give up, if you know what I mean. But you were still thinking about completing your GCSE. You were still thinking about completing your undergrad, and then you were, let me do masters. Great opportunity. Why studies? Why carry on with your education?
I think that's a great question. So there's something weird that my mum used to do when she was alive. She would always say to me, if I die, there's 3 things I want you to take away. And I'm like, why are you saying that? Why are you being strange? And the 3 things were God. She was like, you need to have a relationship with Christ because that's all you've got, you know? That's all I have. Education is the second one. She was like, nobody can take that away from you if you're an independent woman, you're educated. I think that came from like her law background, you know. And also my grandma finished school at 16, so she was like the first to like, you know, be educated. So it was like, you need to carry that on. And she was like, I didn't do a master's, so you should do a master's type of thing. And the third thing she said was a smile. My mum was always smiling, and I don't jest when I say this. So because she was a journalist and she was used to being in front of the camera, right? So when we would go to like maybe dinners or balls or all these fancy places that she's taking me to, she would make me practice my smile. So we would sit there at home and she had this thing where you had to like squeeze your face, hold it for 30 seconds, and then apparently you have the most beautiful smile ever afterwards. So
you do have an amazing smile, and I can vouch for the fact that you do keep smiling all the time.
So shout out to my mum for the smiling tactics. But yeah, she literally God, education and a smile. So I think inherently that sort of stuck with me. And I'm not going to say education is amazing. I'm very blessed to be in a position where I can even go to school because there's a lot of people that can't across the world, right? But I'm not going to say, my plans were to just keep on educating myself. I think just life circumstances, I was like, you know what? Well, what else am I doing with myself? I might as well go and learn, you know?
Why did you not go the other way around? In the sense, why did you not rely on some other comforts of life?
Well, you know what? There was definitely a period where I did rely on other comforts of life. And it kind of ties into, you know, the where I'm at now with the story. So, as I mentioned, when I was going through this financial crisis, I started thinking to myself, how do I cope with this, you know? When I was younger, you know, when you're a kid, sometimes you try some substances. So I'd tried some things in my past, but I'd never been like a smoker or anything. And I met, so at BCU, I met some people and they used to travel a lot and they could get like big packs of cigarettes for quite cheap. So they started bringing me like cigarettes and stuff. And yeah, I found myself just becoming like a chimney smoker, just constantly smoking. A lot of my friends at the time were like, this is off brand for you, you know, like we've not seen you do this before. And I'm like, you don't know what I'm going through. Like I need this. Like it was, you know, to the point where it's like, I can't function without this. Yeah, I was absolutely smoking. I was drinking a lot. But I'd say I was going to the gym at the same time. So, you know, healthy lifestyle, healthy balance, should I say. Gym in the morning, smoke and drink in the evening.
And an apple a day keeps the doctor away.
And an apple a day, exactly. So yeah, had a good balance of everything. But no, seriously, it was just one of the most depressing times. The studio flat that I had, the windows wouldn't open. There was just air conditioning. So there were times where I felt like I was like sinking into the floor. There was a time where I like passed out in the room, and I don't know, obviously I woke up eventually, but I was like, oh my God, like what's happened? There was a time where I felt like something was like coming for me, and I ran outside and it was raining, and I sat in front of like the studio apartment door, and I was just there like, if I could record myself at that time, it was just like a maniac, like just running around doing all sorts of crazy things. That time, so I want to mention that mental health is something that, like, as in poor mental health, sorry, is something that I've never experienced before. But during that time, that's when I realized, like, wow, like it's real, I lived near a canal, and I would constantly get thoughts of like, let me just jump in. But what would stop me was, if it doesn't work, this is going to be so embarrassing, because if they have to drag me out and I'm like, oh, I attempted to, and it didn't work, what now? Like, that's the only thing that would stop me. But sometimes I would go down and I would walk by the canal and I'd just be like, do I not? And yeah, I just couldn't every time because of that reason. I started to like medicate a lot, and it was affecting my masters as well. But my tutor at the time, amazing guy, I feel like he could see that he didn't recommend like counselling to me or anything, but he helped me where he could, just giving me like extra lessons, or I think he could tell I was determined. Where it really sort of got, so that started 2018. 2019 was bad. It was really, really bad. I was in and out of hospital because of my mental health, because of, like I said, I felt like I was sinking. I don't know how to explain sinking into the ground.
I hear you.
I felt
it's
like
a feeling in the pit of your stomach as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
I know,
felt like there was
exactly
a hole, and I was just gonna like, it was very bizarre. Oh, me and 111 were best friends. I was always calling, I feel like I'm sinking into, and they're like, oh, okay. Like, they weren't obviously dismissing me, but it was just kind of like, what is this weird feeling? It had become
a normal thing
yeah.
for you to call them.
Yeah.
What do you call them?
Yeah.
You call them every time?
Every time I knew to call them. I was
and you reached out for that help every time?
Yeah. Every time, because I knew it wasn't normal. I was like, I need some way to... And they would come out, and I remember there was this one time 2 ladies came out and they were like, what is this? And I couldn't sleep as well. That was probably what was causing a lot of I tried to take sleeping tablets. That wouldn't work. I, trying all these different methods, and I just couldn't sleep. Someone said to try the sound of rain. And that was okay. Then it wasn't okay because it started to be noisy. So then I started the sound of air. Like, when you're in the aeroplane. And up till today, I still have to do that. Like, I can't sleep without the sound of air. So that started from that time. But yeah, so I started playing the sound of air to sleep. But like I said, the 2 ladies came out and they were like, why are you so anxious? Like, you've told us that you're doing a master's degree. You've told us that this and that. And I was like, I just don't feel like I'm doing good enough. I was in a job, because in my previous job in London, I was earning a lot of money. I was, I'd been to Atlanta, I'd been to all these places, and it's like I've gone and done a master's, and now and I just felt like it was like a bad decision, because it's like I was in a good place and now I've chosen education. And so, to answer your question of like, why education, at that point I was like, why do I even value education? Because it's ruined my life, And they were just like, no, this is how it is. Like, as a student, it's tough, everybody goes through it, but a lot of people can't do what you do. They just really like spoke life into me. They gave me some things to do to sleep. So they gave me lavender spray. Not gave it, as in like they've suggested lavender spray, that I get it. That started to help. I'd like spray it on my pillow, and then I was able to like sleep a lot better. The day that the stress like alleviated, the day that pain stopped, and that's when I realized that mental, like your mind and your body are connected. So if your brain is stressed, you're gonna see the effects of the stress on your body. And I never thought the two were connected before, but because I'd like experienced it, I was like, wow, okay. And I was like, right. mental health is not a joke. The other example I want to mention, and this one is very extreme. So I went to a party November 2019, and it was like, yeah, you know, I'm with my friends, we're gonna drink, whatever. Somebody had brought brownies, which I thought were just brownies.
But they were brownies.
Little did I know that this thing had, you know, all sorts in it. And because I thought they were just brownies, I had quite a bit. I like brownies, right? So I'm there like, nom, 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 gobbling it all up. After the party, we went to a friend's house, and my mouth just started feeling so dry, like gasping for, like, you know, water or something. So I started drinking water. But it didn't matter how much water I was drinking, it was just so dry. And I said to my friend, am I the only one who feels like this? And she was like, yeah, I feel fine. So I'm like, you know, what's going on? This is odd. So we all stayed at this friend's house for a while. And then going back home, I remember being on the train and just like passing out, like just like literally, when I woke up, I'd missed my stop by many stops, you know. And when I woke up, I just felt so like, you know, like an out of body experience, like very confused and whatnot. Yeah, I then obviously had to make my way back to my stop. When I got home, my grandma was sort of like, you know, first of all, where have you been? You've been out all night. Second of all, you look strange. I don't know if it was like affecting like my face or something. And then I just started to like throw up, like just like vomit and stuff. And obviously my grandma's like, oh my God, what's going on? She was like, you need to go to the hospital. So I called an Uber. I got in the Uber. And when I got in the Uber, I started to have like a panic attack. And I started screaming. And I was like screaming Jesus. I don't know why. I remember it very clearly. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to die. I'm going to meet Jesus. And I was like screaming. And the driver's obviously looking at me like, this girl is bonkers. Like, what is going on here? And when I got to the hospital, they had to like drag me out of the car. And then I passed out. I don't know what happened. But when I woke up, I was in the hospital bed. I remember just looking around like, how did I end up here? Like, what's going on? The nurse came in and said, oh, are you okay? And I was like, no, like, why am I here? Like, what's happening? And she said, oh, well, we think you had like like you must have taken some sort of drug or something, and it's obviously negatively affected you. I don't even know what the drug was. Yeah. I can't remember, but it clearly was something that, you know. And she said that when you got to the hospital, you was acting like a schizophrenic. So we're not sure if you've got schizophrenia, but we've put you in this ward where we keep schizophrenic people. And I'm looking at her like, is this real? This whole thing started from me having some brownies and I'm in the schizophrenic ward at the hospital. What on earth is going on? So yeah, as I'm sitting there and she's explaining this to me, there was a woman who like opened the curtain, because you know they close the curtain sometimes. She opened the curtain and tried to like attack me. Like she got onto the bed and tried to like scratch my face or something. And they were like trying to like restrain her, like, no, stop. And then I realized, okay, I'm really in a mad hospital, a mad ward, you know. Anyways, they did some more tests and they discharged me and they said, oh, it's fine. Like whatever's in your system, it will naturally like clear itself. Just have to do this and do that. But I think that was I just thought, this is too much. That whole 2019, I started blogging and I wrote a blog about that year. And I sent it to all my family members. And a lot of them were like, oh my God, we're so sad. Like, why was you suffering in silence? Why didn't you speak to us? Why didn't you tell us? And I'm like, how do I tell you guys? First of all, a lot of them live in London or they live in Ghana. Remember, nobody was here in Birmingham. So I'm like, well, how do I even tell you guys, you know? Second of all, my issue was money. And I didn't feel comfortable asking people for money month on month for like a whole year, you know, because I'm like, that's a lot. But it's something that unfortunately, up till now, that period of time in my life still affects me. And it affects me because I don't feel like my mind is as strong as it used to be, in the sense of when I was a kid, I was very sort of, you know, I'd do whatever, I'd go wherever, I wouldn't think about the dangers or the risks. And I know that as you get older anyways, you become more like self-aware, but I just think that period is what really sort of broke me. And I've had to like year on year rebuild myself to become stronger. And it's been hard, you know, because I'm always like, I don't ever want to go back to, because it was such a scary place to be in. that's always the fear of like, I really don't want to go back to that place, you know? So sometimes when issues arise, I'm like, okay, how am I going to deal with this? But I will say, thankfully, due to working in higher education for a while, I've become a lot more aware of the support that's out there. So from apps to organizations that I can like contact, and I think you should practice what you preach. So for me working with students and helping people younger than me with like their mental health or their issues, I'm like, well, if I'm advising them to do this, then I need to sort of take it on myself, you know? And I think that the one thing that haunts me the most, unfortunately, is death. Death is a very scary thing to me that I'm trying to slowly become less scared of. But the reason why it's so scary to me is because at 14, my mum was 42, my dad was 44. At 14, I thought, oh, they're old, you know? They've lived their life, you know? Now I'm 31 and I'm like, I'm closer to their ages than I was to 14. And that reality of like, that fear of like, am I going to surpass their ages? If I do, what does life look like? If I don't, oh my, you know, is this some sort of curse? Or I don't know, that sometimes those thoughts come to my head, you know? Apart from my parents, my grandma, the one that raised me, ended up passing in 2023. And one of my very close cousins, who was like a sister to me, also passed in 2023. So I've had a lot of death around me, you know, and I'm not that old. So death is really something that haunts me a lot. And when I hear of people passing, particularly when they're young, I get scared. I'm like, oh my goodness, you know, what if that was me in that car crash? Or what if that was me in that situation? And I'm just always like on edge. But I think, like I said, gradually, I'm trying to calm myself that, you know, trying to get out of that, because it can be very restricting in how you live your life, you know. I found myself being someone that liked to go out, enjoy myself, to being so like, I'm scared to do anything. And you can't be like that, right? Go on.
Can I ask you a few questions? You know, when you lost your parents and you went through, I mean, that's traumatic. I can't even understand how traumatic it is when you lose both your parents and you're only 14. That's huge. Did you blame anybody or anyone else?
That's a great question. Only recently, actually. So in 2023, when my grandma passed, I had to clear out the house in London. There was, you know, over the years, so much hoarding, a lot of things that had been built up. And I was going through a lot, because my grandma kept everything. I've got her marriage certificate, you know, like oh God, she never threw anything away, which is a good thing and a bad thing, because I found out a lot of stuff through the things that she'd kept, you know. But I think that time really showed me that, for me personally, I think my mum had a lot of fake people around her. I think a lot of her friends, they weren't her friends, they were users. They were people that saw something in her that wanted to take advantage of that. Like I said, she was very well connected. She was very much appreciated in the community. And I think people just wanted to be around her because of her status and because of who she was. And I'm not saying they are, but I definitely think they're part of the reason, because I think she was giving a lot of time to the wrong people, is what I'm saying, you know. And when you give so much out but you don't reflect and sort of focus on yourself, it drains you, you know. And I don't think she realized that the people around her were draining her. Some of them were family members, some of them were friends, you know. So I just don't think she had a lot of good people around her. And like I said, I realized that in 2023 when I was clearing out the house, and I just thought, oh gosh, she probably would still be here, but she was pouring into all the wrong people. And I've seen my grandma do the same. And I think, in my opinion, that's something that takes people early, because you just can't give so much of yourself and not receive anything back, you know? Yeah.
Do you trust people? Or has this experience of your life impacted how you trust people?
I would definitely say that because my mum was so kind, I take pride in being a little bit mean.
Explain.
I'm like, you know, I'll give an example, like with family, you know, my mum very forgiving, oh, it's okay, and would move on. I'm like, no, you've shown me who you are, that's it. Like, I'm not gonna keep making excuses, or like, I'm done, you know. I'm strict. Like, I've got very clear boundaries now as to, like, you know, you're not gonna mess with me. And also, my thing is, like, in my culture, respect is, like, you know, number one. Yeah. And it's like, well, what am I respecting you on the basis of? Just because you're an older person? I definitely have people that I trust in my life, but that's been earned. And it definitely isn't in the sense of just because we're related, I trust you. It's different people that have played different roles in my life.
So it's with you, it's you have to earn my trust. It's
Absolutely.
not the first thing I give.
No. You have to earn my trust. I've just seen the benefits sometimes when you are just not constantly overextending yourself for people, you know?
Can I just go back to when you were struggling with finance? And anybody who's listening to us right now, how does somebody cope with being in a financial crunch? What did you do maybe? Or what are some of those support systems out there that they could rely on?
Yeah, great question. Am I financially stable at this moment in time? Nope. But
you're getting there.
But I think what has helped is, you know, I don't want to promote this per se, but it depends on the situation. Different people have to do different things. I'm talking from a perspective of someone who doesn't have any, like, parental help, any family help, you know. It's very different when you have that. So for me, I had to live a bit of a minimalist lifestyle, you know. Instead of taking the bus, I would walk. I know all of Birmingham now. I've walked everywhere, honestly. I walk a lot. I don't obviously buy things unnecessary, like clothes, and, you know, I'm not drawn in by capitalism so much. Like I said, it's important to invest in yourself, self-care. I've always kind of had a baseline. So apart from the 2019 phase, after that, you know, I make sure, like, my nails is done, my hair is done, you know, just things to make me feel like a human. But I'm not overspending and on things that I don't need. All of these little things, when you start adding it up, you realise that, oh, I've saved, you know, £10, £20. It just starts adding up. And then you realise, oh my goodness, like, what was I doing before that I was, like, spending so much money? So that's a great way, just cutting back on things, like, analysing all aspects of your life. Where can I cut back, you know? Can I get the cheaper version this time, you know? What is going to last me longer so that I don't have to keep on buying it? Can I learn to do some things myself? It's not everything that you have to go to someone else to do it. Sometimes DIY, you know, learn how to do it. So I think people may laugh, but it's massive in terms of saving money. Also speaking to a financial advisor. So that's something that I did. Looked at my finances, what's coming in, what, you know.
Great advice, I think. That's amazing advice.
Yeah. Because they're paid to advise you when you feel lost. It
doesn't cost you anything?
The initial conversation, no, you know. Okay. But there are some companies out there that, they don't charge. You can talk to them as many times as you want, and they advise you. Also, I had a lot of debt, as I mentioned, and at one point I was paying like £800 in debt. As in, like, when my salary would come in, £800 of that would go to my debt
per month.
And I'm like, I can't live like this, you know. I'm literally, like, I'm starving at this moment. And I spoke to my bank, actually, and thankfully the person I spoke to said, oh, you know, you can consolidate your debts. And I'm like, oh, what's that? And she's like, well, they look at your income and they basically work out an average amount that you can pay every month towards your debts. And I'm like, wow, never knew, you know. So that helped me massive. It cut back my payments by like £500, you know.
And that's huge per month. I mean, that sustains you for the whole month.
Exactly.
Decently.
Yeah. So being open about your situation is what I'm trying to say. You know, financial debt is, a lot of people are in financial debt. Some people have been there, they've got out of it. Some people are still in it. But, you know, when you look at the nation on average, I think they say a lot of people don't have savings, or people are living paycheck to paycheck, like it's real. So, being open, especially when you're not as educated on that. I've never sat down with my family and talked about finances and saving. It might have been mentioned once or twice, but it's not something that, you know. So yeah, I think that really helped me, just like talking to different people, being open, inquiring about things when I come across things, even going to events. Sometimes like networking events, you hear about different ways to like, you know, save money or build money as well. Also side hustles as well. So any hobbies that you have, great way to make money. Tutoring, you know, there's so many things out there. I mean, I wouldn't encourage a second job if it's gonna burn you out, but yeah, there's that available
That
too.
option.
Yeah. So but I think for me, I'm always thinking of ways to make money. That's just me. I'm always like, I want to live a comfortable life, so what other ways I can make money? I've also got a very entrepreneurial spirit, so I had a business when I was 18. I finished it around 23. I had an online magazine, where basically I had young people writing for me, and they would talk about different aspects of university life, and through that I started doing events, and that was a way that I was making money. And now I'm on a new business venture, and I haven't started making money just yet, but the type of business it is, I know that money will come in eventually, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that there's so many ways.
Where there's a will, there's a way, isn't it? It's about just going out
Yes,
there, researching
yes,
and finding out
absolutely.
as well on how you can support.
I want to mention another thing, not financial support, but like support in terms of just, you know, mental health and everything. So again, in 2023, I would say that because of my grandma's passing and how heightened it was and all of that, I desperately needed to talk to somebody. And now that I was more aware of what was out there, there's the, what's it called, Employment Assistance Program. So EAP as it's known as. And
they are company-based
Yes.
programs, so your workplace, in the UK at least, we don't know whether it's there in the
for
wider world.
exactly. Yeah.
But in the UK, most companies would have an EAP
Yes,
program where you could go for support, help, advice.
Yes. And how that came about, I didn't know what it was, but I told my manager, my grandma's just passed away. She was like my mum because she took over my mum's role. And my manager was like, oh, we've got the EAP program. And I was like, what's that? And I thought it was like a training course. So I was like, I don't want to do some training when I'm grieving. And she was like, no, it's like counselling. So I'm like, oh, okay. So I got in touch with them, and they assigned me a counsellor. And I don't think I would have got through 2023 without her.
Really?
Yeah. There's a lot of charities even out there. And even not even just GP, but there's also like other NHS organisations that do work, you know. There's just a lot. And I think that's one thing in the UK we're very privileged to have. We've got a lot of different avenues. I'll be honest, sometimes it's not as well advertised, and I think I only know about it because of the spaces that I've worked in, you know. But for example, at 14 I couldn't tell you what was out there, you know. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff out there. It's important to keep inquiring, and sometimes you won't get the help. Sometimes the system does work against you, you know. Sometimes the waiting lists are crazy, and that type of stuff, and you feel helpless because it's like, well, why am I waiting? The problem is now, why am I waiting 6 months to get the help, you know? But you have to keep trying. Don't give up. Because the moment you do, that's it. It's just like, oh, okay, well, there's no help out there, and there is, but it just takes like one person to talk to that can change it all around.
You know, if I say you now, with all your experiences, wisdom, learnings, if you could speak to your younger self who was just fresh into the trauma of life, what message would you give to her, the young you?
Ooh, so many things. Let me see if I can try and summarize it. I would say that to my younger self that it gets better, in the sense of, do you know, I'll be honest, I know they say childhood is like the best time of your life and everything, but sometimes it's not. Some people have very awful childhoods, you know, and as much as, you know, in the beginning I had a nice childhood, then it all sort of went a bit pear-shaped. But I actually enjoy being an adult, in the sense of like making my own decisions, learning from my own mistakes. So just that thing of like, it gets better, you know. You're going to be in a space in your life where people are not controlling you or controlling the narrative. And that can really cause a lot of trauma, you know, when you look back at certain things that people have done and you're like, oh my goodness, like this was so bad, or this was so horrible. So I definitely say to myself, it gets better. I would say that, you know, the confidence that comes as a child. So I'm sure you're aware of like colorism, in the black community, colorism is rife. In the black community, you can come very dark, myself, or even darker, or you can come out quite light for whatever reason. It might be that you've got maybe a mix in your family, or it might just be that you come out lighter. My mum's side of the family is lighter, so my mum was significantly lighter than myself. When I was younger, people would always make comments like, oh, you can't be her child, or oh, what happened to you, or you was left in the oven for too long type of thing. And it was like, damn, and I was bullied a lot because of it. It was like, you look like charcoal, you're ugly, you're this, you're that. And I just felt like, why could I not look like her? I don't understand it. If you're my mum, we're meant to be twins. I don't get why we look so different. And obviously, as a mum, she's like, no, you're beautiful. She would tell me, you're so beautiful. Da, da, da. And I'm like, oh, come on, you're my mum. You're just saying that. Because nobody else would tell me that, So it didn't feel real.
Except for me.
It didn't feel real. I'm like, oh, come on, And in school, a lot of us darker girls, we would all get the same thing. The boys were not looking at us. They would make fun of us. And there was this self-hatred, internal self-hatred.
Was this in Ghana or here?
This is here. Yeah.
Was that in Ghana as well for the 1 year
No,
that you were
because we're all black.
Okay.
Regardless, actually, it's probably the lighter people that people would make fun of. Okay. Like, oh, you don't fit in because you're too yellow. But here it was like, oh, you're dark. And there was just this negativity associated with darkness, in general, it's like if you see somebody and they give you like an awkward vibe, like maybe they not resemble, but they act like a witch or something, or you're like, I don't want to be around that. So darkness is associated with negativity. There was countless times in my life where and not just kids, adults would make comments, and I think that's even worse, because when adults are perpetuating stereotypes of like I said, oh, your mum is so pretty, like what happened to you? Like, why do you even say that to a child? That's insane, thinking the child is not going to think anything of it, but it's like those things live with you. So I really just, I used to call myself the ugly duckling. And not only was I dark, but I'm overweight as well. So I've been, as I got older, my weight fluctuated, but as a child, very much a plump child, So again, it was like constant making fun of my weight. When I went to school in Ghana, they have a term called obolo, and that means fat, So when I would go to school, it's like, obolo is coming, and people like make little jokes, and it was just like, damn, I'm just trying to exist. Why is everybody so horrible to me? So I've truly believed when I was a kid that I was just hideous, When I would look in the mirror, I'm like, why? Like, And I know there was other girls like me, but it felt like I was in it alone.
Yeah.
And especially because I think some of the girls around me, they had like older siblings and stuff, so they could maybe gain that confidence from them. But looking around, like I said, I grew up in a family of lighter complexion women, and then I'm the only one out, so it was tough. But now I think I'm gorgeous. Like I look in the mirror and I'm like, oh my goodness. And it's because I don't know, it's funny actually. I was speaking with a friend recently, and she said to me, I've noticed since you turned 30, you've just got this confidence out of nowhere. And I said to her, do you know why? I just woke up one day and I said, I'm tired of this. I'm tired of being unconfident. I'm tired of putting myself down. I'm tired of living this way. This is who I am. It's not going to change, All I can do is be the best version of myself. So I admit that I'm not in the best shape. Thankfully, we can do something about that. Even these days, you can get surgery to change your face. There's nothing impossible to change, right? So it's just kind of like, if you don't pour into yourself, who else is going to pour into you, And I think that because I am looking after myself better, I can see the beauty in me. And I see how your beauty, I'm not just talking about women, even men, it gets stripped away when you don't look after yourself, When you start deteriorating, it shows, In 2019, like I mentioned, I would meet people and they would tell me sometimes, I can see that you're sad, or I can see that you're unhappy. It was the energy I was carrying on top of me not looking after myself, And
it's a interrelated concept as well of mental health suffering, you not looking after yourself, that's kind of impacting your mental health even more.
Yeah.
And then you're not looking after, so it's like a vicious circle that one thing leads into another. But the moment you start eating better, sleeping, hydrating yourself, even if you start with these basic things, moving a little bit more, your mental health starts improving and you start feeling better, and then you start looking better as well, isn't it? You get that confidence.
100%.
And then you wear your confidence, isn't it? So it's all kind of interrelated. And
it is. And you know, for people that are like, oh, it's not, of course it's not all about your external look. Of course you have to do inner work for other parts of your life as well, but your external is what you see every day and what other people see every day, you know. It's all linked, and at the end of the day, people want to be around you when you invest in yourself, you know. And it could be in any sort of way, but I think that I'm talking as a woman, where in this society beauty is number one, you know. Beauty is subjective, I agree, but everyone can be the best version of them, you know. So when I thought about it, I was like, it's not that I'm ugly or I've ever been ugly, but of course as a child I never really invested in myself, and I couldn't, because I was going through all of this grief. Absolutely. You know, that was at top of my list. You know,
and you have started going through unsettled environment from fairly early on, even before you lost your father, because he had moved out and he was in Ghana, he was with somebody else. So there was turmoil in your life from when you were very young. It's not just 14 when it started.
From much earlier, you're right. Yeah. So things like that, it wasn't top of my list at all. Whereas now I'm like, okay, at least if I become settled in myself, everything else will just start to work out, you know? So that's what I'm trying to do. Yeah, I think I've just reached a stage of, like I said, my latter 20s are very hard for me as well. Because of the I guess second round of loss, like I said, you know, parents in the early stages, grandma and cousin in the second stages, and
financial issues,
you know,
and then relying on some substances at one point in time. So there was a lot
going on. So I just was like, I don't know, I've actually got a crown that says 30 and I have it in my room, and it constantly reminds me of, like, that's when I feel like everything started to change for me, because I said I'm not gonna go through the next 10 years like this, you know. It must be better.
You know, anybody else who's going through a similar experience in their life of having lost their parents, and maybe they're somebody who's of a younger age who's listening to us, maybe, what message would you give to them that might be in addition to what you would give yourself when you were younger, of it'll get better and look after yourself? What else would you say to them?
Great question. Great, because it actually relates to me. The cousin that I'm talking about that I lost, she left behind 2 girls, and I mean, they're still young. My eldest niece is 15 and the other one is 13, you know. So when I'm speaking to them, I feel like I'm speaking to myself, because I'm the only person in the family that understands what they've been through.
It's a lived experience.
Exactly. It's tough because, like I said to you before, you can give people advice, but it's like, are they going to use that advice? Are they going to take it on? But honestly, what I would say is you have to do the work, and the work involves talking to people and getting solutions for the issues that you feel. So as I mentioned, that lady that counselled me when I was in year 10 or 11, that was pivotal to me making it through my GCSEs, because I had someone to talk to, you know. And I remember I would talk to her about the silliest things, but she would just sit there and listen, and that's all I needed. So to a younger person, talk, you know, obviously not to just anybody, but someone that you trust, someone that you can confide in. And what's amazing is that I've been offered a new role where I'm going to be working with children and young people, and I personally feel like I've been placed there because of what I've been through. So I'm hoping that these young people will look at me as someone that they can confide in. And I genuinely just feel like, as a young person, that's all you need. That's all it takes. Just one person to champion you and push you and motivate you and believe in you, you know. And I've had people like that along the way. Not loads, but like I said, just one sometimes. That's all you need, you know. That's what I would say. Talk to someone, try new things. Don't think that the area you grew up in or the school that you went to is all that exists. Get yourself out there go to different places, try things that you thought were impossible. Because the thing is, especially in this country, there's a lot of things for young people to do, from sports to activities to trips. There's so many things out there, and the more you try things, the more it expands you to a wider world. And you don't know who you're gonna meet. You know, you could meet anybody, it doesn't matter. You could meet one of your best friends that's gonna be there for a lifetime, and someone that's gonna change your life. I think community is important and whatnot, but what I'm saying is community doesn't have to just be like your culture or your religion or what you're born into. It can be more than that, you know?
Yeah, you can spread your net.
You can spread your nest,
But you also realise the more you talk to people and put yourself out there, you realise that you are probably not alone in what you're going through.
Yeah. And that it's not just this is a me issue or like it's just a human issue. As humans, we all go through similar stuff, you know.
So well said. It's a human issue.
Yeah, I agree.
So before we end, if there is one message you could throw out to the universe, what would it be? And it might actually relate to the last activity that I do with my guests as well. And it's okay if it is the same thing, is that I ask all my guests to leave me a positive message, and it doesn't need to be me necessarily, but it could be to the wider world or to your friends, relatives, anybody really. One positive message. What would that be? I'm going to give you this as well in case it's the same thing. Then you can capture it here. And what I do is I put it on the board behind you, and once my board is full of positive messages, which I hope one day it will be, I will share it with everybody.
Okay, should I write it down?
Yeah, and then you can read it.
Okay, so I've got, if you are for you, no one can be against you. Meaning that if you are your biggest champion, if you're your biggest supporter, no one can be against you, because you're your biggest cheerleader, you know? So now, like I said, that little girl that used to have people make derogatory comments about me and make me feel ashamed and sad, you can't tell me now that, oh, you're so dark, or oh, you're so big, or you can't do that. It's unacceptable.
Stand up for yourself now, don't you?
I honestly, and that's why I feel like I live such a peaceful life now, because I have those set boundaries. It's like, I know who I am. Well, I'm still getting to know myself, but for the most part, I know who I am. I know how I identify, and nobody can take that away from me. And like I said, no one can be against me. My biggest enemy is myself, you know? So I don't view people as a hazard or as an obstacle to me anymore, because I let people know, like, I'm not tolerating this.
Although this is the last thing we do, I do have one question I want to ask you. And then we can end the episode. What is, in your head, what does your future look like to you? What is your next ambition? What's your next goal?
Very timely. I wrote my goals down yesterday.
Ooh, lovely.
So, but actually, because I'm actually such an over planner, I just wrote down my goals for this year. Because normally I'm like, okay, in 2027, like I will go on and on and on until, you know. And it's like, we don't need to do that. We don't know what life is going to look like in the next 2, 3, 4 years. It's okay. Calm down. Come back to earth, you know. So I think for the next 12 months, I'm really just focused on self-development. So like I said, I want to bake, you know, just, I'm talking like the little things. I want to, of course, invest in myself more. I want to be healthier. So, you know, working out, eating right. I want to travel. Kind of got a few trips lined up. I have a business, so my business, I'm going to plug my business, why not? So it's called Signature Spaces, and it's a travel and tourism platform helping people to visit Ghana if they'd like to. So you can book your flights on there, accommodation, activities, events. And I created it because Ghana's become very much a tourist hub of Africa. In terms of people visiting, a lot of people have a great time, but they always say that it's a little bit messy in terms of the organisation. So I'm trying to create a seamless way that people can visit my country and come back and be like, wow, this was amazing. So yeah, I want to bring stability or help towards creating stability in the economy, creating jobs for people, But of course, I want to build generational wealth for myself. So that's kind of like a major push. So I started the business last year, September. So it's still very new. So I'm really trying to expand that. Yeah. And like I said, I think I'm just focused on those short term goals. So for 2026, continuing with the happiness, I feel like I'm just in a phase of building myself. And I'm hoping that by the time I sort of reach my mid 30s, I will be in that financial position that I want to be in, and I will be, settled in other aspects.
I think you have had such a journey of growth and learning, haven't you?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this experience you had could break a lot of people, and they could be going down a different path altogether, but you have made something of your life. I see such an incredibly confident young woman sitting in front of me, and not once did you think about not once did you blame anybody as such, but you were always focused on your growth and what next, what achievement. Even in 2019, when you were going through that, it's only taught you something, and it's made you stronger in your resolution to do better and good for yourself. And now you're focused on, creating this generational wealth for yourself and leaving a legacy, and you're so focused, and it's incredible to see such power and strength and courage coming from you. I do wish you all the very best. Thank you so much for coming here and sharing your story.
Thank you.
I know it was an emotional journey for you, but I have personally taken a lot from this conversation as well. So thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Strength isn't about never breaking. It's about rebuilding. Boohema's story reminds us that losing everything doesn't mean losing yourself. That hope can survive even the deepest heartbreaks, and that dreams don't have an end date, even when life tries to rewrite your path. If you are listening and carrying your own loss, let this be a reminder. Your past does not disqualify you from joy, purpose, or possibility. Thank you, Boohema, for your honesty, your courage, and for showing us what it means to keep choosing life. And to everyone listening, be gentle with yourself and don't give up on the dreams that still whisper to you. If you have a story to share and want to take part, please scan the QR code on the screen. I will see you in the next episode, and until then, stay unbroken.